Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining me. Okay, now I'm sounding like people that read news. All right, so good evening, everyone. How has your week been? I hope you had an amazing week. I hope you had a fun-filled week. I hope you had a fulfilling week. All right, so briefly, I want to look at how to have the sex conversation with your child without feeling awkward about it. All right, so a lot of parents shy away from this conversation, from having this conversation, and I have been able to discover that reasons why this happen is because either the parents lack the necessary skill to convey this message, or they are not knowledgeable enough to handle this conversation. All right, they are not knowledgeable enough to handle this conversation, so they try to shy away from this conversation and they leave the responsibility to schools, churches, and every other place they feel the child should get the information from. Okay, so first of all, when we talk about sex education, what do we mean when we talk about sex education? Sex education, it's an umbrella. All right, it's like an umbrella that houses a lot of things under it. So we look at things. We look at value system. We look at the at discipline. We look at physical, emotional, social aspects of people's sexuality. All of these are under sex education. All right, so sex education is a broad term that encompasses education about human anatomy, sexuality, reproduction, and relationship. All these things are under the umbrella of sex education. So it involves teaching individuals about the physical, emotional, and social aspects of their sexuality. So when we're talking about sexuality, or when we talk about sex education, we don't really necessarily mean sex like the word sex or intercourse as some people will put it. No, we're talking about self-discipline. We're talking about value. We're talking about accountability. We're talking about every other thing. We're talking about body safety of the child, and all that. Not necessarily intercourse like a lot of us perceive it to be. Okay, so but there are ways we can have this conversation without making it look awkward, without making it sound so ambiguous, without making it look like it's a big word that we are throwing at the kids. So we want to look at ways we can have this conversation without even feeling it, without even knowing that we are having this conversation with children. All right, okay, so before we look at how we can have this conversation, I want to say that the best time to begin the sex conversation with your child is as soon as your child is born, as soon as your child can hear you. All right, so don't wait for them to mature to adults, to teenagers, before you start. At that point it becomes difficult. That's the truth. Once you wait for your child to get to the teenage years before you start talking about sex education, it becomes difficult to handle it. And trust me, before that time your child already learned a lot from the peers, from the environment, from the media and all. So the best gift, according to Coach Wendy Ologe, the best gift you can give your child is the gift of sex education. Okay, now as a parent, how can I communicate this conversation without even feeling awkward, without feeling that it is too much, without feeling shameful about it? First of all, I am going to start early. I have to start early as possible. If my child is 1 year old, I'm going to start using nursery rhymes. You teach them. I remember we had different nursery rhymes. I've shared a story of how I was sent to sex educate nursery 1 class, and I had no idea of what to do, because then I was just a newbie in the teaching system. And then they say, oh, Isioma, we need you to go to KG1 and teach them sex education. And I'm like, wow, where do I start from? I don't know anything. I say, okay, when I get there, I'm going to explain sex, with all the big grammar, or everything I've crammed on my head and all that. So I went to, after praying, I went to my friend, who is also a nursery school teacher, and I told her, I said, I'm having issues. I don't know how to go about this. I've been asked to go to KG1 and talk about sex education. And she said, okay, now I'm going to teach you some nursery rhymes. And then she taught me about 3. They made sense. She told me what to say, how to say it, what to do, how the body language and all. And the children actually enjoyed it. And the feedback we got was amazing. Parents were like, oh, my child got home and I tried to do this. And they said, no, mommy, don't touch. You do this and all that. The feedbacks were great. Now, start early. Start with nursery rhyme. Let the child know that this part is your genital. This part is this part. Mention the names, the terms by their names, okay? Now we all have mastered the art of making it sound child friendly. We call it we call it poo-poo, we call it different names. But the real thing is, mention each name or each object or each body parts by their name. Use the appropriate terminology. There's no point sugarcoating it or making it sound so child friendly. No, use the appropriate terminology for it. All right, okay. So as your child progresses, you begin to change your strategy, because it's not what works for a child of 2 years that will work for a child of 10 years. So as your child advances, you change the strategy. From nursery rhymes, you can progress to having a proper discussion and all, and you progress on, depending on the age of your child. So number 2 is using appropriate terminology. All right, so number 3, be honest and open when you're having this conversation. So a lot of parents are not honest. I'm sorry to say this, and not open when we're having this conversation. I remember when we never really had the opportunity of being sex educated. No, we didn't. What we were told was, we were sold fear. Mostly what we're told was, if you pass, you're going to do this. If you just do that, this will happen. It was more of a fearful experience. Like we were sold fear. We were sold fear. We were not really or properly sex education. I would not call that sex education, because it is nothing related to sex education. All right, so when parents are, that when a girl comes next to a boy, she's not going to get pregnant. So what's the essence of telling her that the moment you cross the same road with a boy, or the moment you stay in the same room with a boy, or the moment you say hello and you shake, then pregnancy will happen? It doesn't work that way. These children are going to figure it out someday, and that will make you, the mother or the father, a liar. And guess what? The level of trust they have for you will drop to 0, because you have just ended up deceiving them, or you just made yourself a liar. Okay, so let's not make things, let's not twist things. Let's say it the way it is when we are having this conversation. And I know that a lot of us, maybe some of us had one or two things, because the truth is these children are so intelligent, so they're going to ask you a lot of questions. Let's assume you had a child outside wedlock before you got married, and the child is asking you, how come you're 15 years old in marriage and I'm 20 years? Don't say, come on, shut up, why are you asking? It's not your place to know, it's in their place to know. What you have to do is to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is a skill in parenting. Be vulnerable. By doing so, you open up, you say, oh, you see, I didn't gain more knowledge when I was growing up, or I had no access to the knowledge you have now when I was growing up. So what happened was, this was what happened, and it was a mistake. That is why I don't want you to make the same mistake that I made. You're being vulnerable, and you're taking hold of that opportunity to guide your child and guard your child. All right. So the next one is listen actively. Don't be the only one talking. Listen actively. Get their feedback. Allow them to talk. Get to answer questions that are being thrown at you whenever they ask you questions. Okay, because they are intelligent, they are going to ask you a lot of questions. Be patient. Take your time and answer all the questions that will be thrown at you. All right. So the next one is be approachable. You cannot sex educate a child you're not connected with. You need to build this connection. First of all, you need to connect with your child first of all for you to be able to have this conversation. All right. So you need this conversation. Hello, Auntie Mary. Hello, Chinedu and Auntie Precious. I can see you, Uncle Chinedu. Thank you for being here tonight. I celebrate and appreciate you all. All right. So I am after building this conversation, understand that sex education is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. It's a process that will repeat itself over and over and over again. So your relationship will most likely live with you until you're 18. And then you started this conversation at age 1. You're expected to take this conversation to at least that 18 years that will be with you. So let's assume you're supposed to have this conversation once a month or twice a month. How many times will it be in a year? That's like 12 times in a year or 24 times in a year. Now, multiply 24 times by 18. That is how much time or how many times you're supposed to have this conversation with your child. That is how many times you're supposed to have this conversation with your child. Now, because I understand how busy parents can be now, trying to balance career and family, so most times we don't even have opportunity to talk about this. So what I do personally, anytime I am with my children, is the opportunity to talk about it. I use everyday opportunity. All right, so we may be driving and we see somebody who is not shabbily dressed or somebody who is not properly dressed, maybe a lady or something. We can start a conversation from there. Say, see, look at this person. This person is not properly dressed. Do you think God is happy? Do you think this is the way? And then conversation starts. So every opportunity I get, we could be eating, and then I share a story of something that happened while we were growing up, and I relate it. At the end of the day, the objective of that story is to make sure I get them to, we get to a particular end. There's somewhere we want to arrive at. All right, it could be in the church, it could be anywhere, it could be when we're watching a movie, anywhere. I don't wait to get that opportunity to say, okay, everyone come. Now my kids are different ages, so I don't have this conversation with them. Like, I don't gather them because they are not same sex. So I don't bring them together and say, okay, everybody, come on, today we are having sex conversation. Oh yeah, you sit here. No, because of their age, because of their gender, sex education is gender specific. So this person may take today, next person would take tomorrow, and next person, and any day, any opportunity I get, I use everyday life opportunity to convey this message. When you do it this way, you see that you're giving out a lot without even feeling it. All right, so rather than waiting for a good opportunity, because you keep planning and it may not come. So when you're taking the kids to school, don't be on your phone all the time. Look around. There are things to talk about. Look around you. You may see one thing to talk about, and then the conversation starts. When you're coming back, you could do same. When you're going out, maybe you're going to the mall or something and the kids are there, use that as an opportunity to introduce the topic, and then let the conversation start from there. Make it an interactive process in such a way that the children get to air their mind. That way you know what they are thinking and how they are thinking. All right, you know what they have in mind and how they relate or how they see things from their own perspective. You could ask questions like, so what do you think about this? So what do you think about that? That is sex conversation you are having. That is sex conversation you're having. It's not a matter of, come, sit down. You see that boy, if I see you here again, or you see that girl, the moment you will do this, that is not sex education. Sex education is easy, sex education is simple, and sex education can be done anywhere and anywhere. All right, so now the most important way to have this conversation without feeling awkward about it is to gain more knowledge. Yes, you cannot give what you don't have. You can't give what you don't have. You have to be equipped. You have to equip yourself. First of all, gain knowledge about sex education, get books, attend seminars, buy courses, let coaches mentor you on how to have this conversation. We have a lot of coaches out there who are doing great things, helping in the sex education niche. So get hold of the coach, pay for their services. They can mentor you, or they will mentor you on how best to go about this topic. I can't forget to mention again that you should use everyday life opportunity. Everyday life opportunity. Don't wait for that time of the month or that time of the week, because it may never come. It may never come. So use everyday opportunity to talk about sex education, to talk about their body, how your children should dress, about their relationship. Yes, their relationship, especially now that schools have just resumed and you see that most of the classes have been reshuffled. So your children are most likely going to get new classmates, and these new classmates are coming with new behavior, different behavior altogether. So use that opportunity to talk to your children about relationship, about how to interact with people in their class, about how to build self-esteem, talk about body boundary, talk about safety, talk about consent in such a way that they seek people's consent before they use their things. All right, so sex education can be very simple. You see that in this way you're doing simple things, or you're talking about simple things that are really making effects in the life of your children. So I hope you have learned one or two tonight. My name is Isema Kawikune, and thank you for joining me. On this note, I want to say good night and God bless.